Karate Kid Legends. This will be a spoiler review. I have a review up on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. I think there's maybe a tiny bit of a spoiler in there, but for the most part, that's spoiler free. And I don't think that's not anything you really wouldn't learn from the trailers. So, I actually ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. I think I went higher than a lot of people probably would for this one. I enjoyed a good chunk of it more than I thought I was going to, but then it kind of lost me in the end. And it's weird because I've seen a couple of reviews where the middle is where it lost people, and then they also weren't happy with the end, so they gave it lower reviews. The plot's about what you would think based on the trailers, and it's basically pretty similar to the plot of the first Karate Kid and the Jackie Chan Karate Kid. You got a kid going to a new town with his mom, single mother, meets a girl in the town he likes. There's a bully in the town. It's a karate master that's a student at like an evil dojo, and he ends up having to fight in a tournament to basically get the bully off his back, and he gets trained by a martial arts master to get the skills to win the tournament. And in this version, you see in the trailer, you got Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio as the karate masters. So that's like twist. He's got two famous masters training this kid. And it more or less is the movie, but it takes some interesting turns. First of all, the trailer also keeps hints why Daniel LaRusso would be joining up to help this kid, and they keep mentioning something about how there's two branches to one tree. My guess was that it would have something to do with the story Mr. Miyagi told in The Karate Kid 2 about how Miyagi-Do karate was started, and his ancestor washed up in China, learned kung fu, brought it back to Okinawa. And I was actually pretty surprised that the movie started off with that scene from Karate Kid 2, except then it went to some kind of weird animated sequence, and then it switched over to either an actor or an AI copying Mr. Miyagi's voice and adding parts of the story that we never heard in Karate Kid 2 and kind of tying it into the Jackie Chan movie. So it was kind of interesting, kind of cool seeing that, especially right off the bat. This is how it's all connected, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest, and I'll get back to that a little bit later in this review. We get the setup, we go to China, we do the whole thing with Jackie Chan, and then the kid goes to America like you would expect. And I said the story starts about the way you would think it would. The kid's got good charisma, and when he meets the love interest, she's also got good charisma with him, good chemistry with him, and I think they're very likable. I think the relationship goes very fast. It's like boom, boom. She meets him at the pizza shop. She's kind of flirty. They're already hanging out, so I think that goes kind of fast. But I buy that there's a chemistry between the two, that they would like each other kind of like instantly. So that's fine. I never really bought Lee's mom. If you don't know, the Lee's the main character this time. Or Lee's mom, I don't buy her reason for not liking fighting. Like, her kid was killed after winning a tournament by some guys that were mad about it, so she decides all fighting is bad. But it could have almost been anything. He could have been gambling, he could have doing a million different things, and the kids could have potentially stabbed him afterwards. So he had a beef with the wrong people. I guess she was just looking for something to blame, but they never really get into it. She's like, I don't like fighting, and that's her beef for the whole movie, and then she just lets it go at the end. But then the movie takes an interesting turn in the middle. Like, it's like, okay, you're setting up exactly what you think. It's a Karate Kid. When do the masters come to train him for this tournament? And then, because he's dealing with the bully, he's slightly more one note than Johnny Lawrence was in the first one. Their dojo's even more one note. The guy's some kind of loan shark that owns a karate dojo, and he's a karate master, and you get nothing beyond that. You barely even get any dialogue from the guy. Like, he's definitely no Sensei Kreese. He's just got no anything going for him. He's just completely one note. You barely see anything out of the evil dojo. You don't see really any of the students. Kind of seems like most of them are okay. Just the main guy's like the jackass, even though he's not. They hint that he's not a total jackass, and before the dojo he wasn't. But they just don't get into. It's just so glossed over why. It's just like, oh, we need the evil dojo. There it is. But anyway, the movie suddenly takes this weird turn where we have a really cool fight sequence where Lee has to beat up some thugs that were sent to beat the the dad of the girl that he likes. And it's a cool sequence. It looks very Jackie Chan inspired as far as the choreography. And then the dad wants him to train him because dad used to be a fighter. He's been out of the game for a while. He needs to win a prize money to pay off this loan shark. And we get a sequence of what I didn't expect to see, where Lee is training him with kung fu to help his boxing. And it's like, okay. And it's got a few elements of your classic wax on, wax off a little bit, where you got to learn some stuff you wouldn't think would be a karate technique or martial arts technique. This, the way he had him doing the pizzas and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, this is different. This is something different than the other Karate Kid movies. I'm actually starting to enjoy this. I'm not sure where the end game is with Lee and the bullies, but I'm enjoying this ride. And then basically Dad loses the fight because he gets, basically the guy just attacks him. And then technically the guy lost. It should have been disqualification. But Dad is in the hospital. Lee panics and leaves everybody behind and just kind of goes off on his own. And then Mr. Han just randomly shows up. It's not randomly. I think he was getting worried. He kept trying to call Lee. He went to pick up the phone, so he comes to check on him. And then even more randomly, he's like, well, in order to help him, I need to fly to Cali, pick up Daniel LaRusso, and bring him over to teach karate because the kid's in a karate tournament, and I guess if you don't use karate and you use kung fu instead, you can't participate. I don't know. It's real vague why you need this karate instructor. I can see the part about making his technique better, but it's just, they kind of implied it's like you need to learn karate for this tournament, and it's like, no, you can barely tell the difference between the two once you get going. And that's where the movie, I think, falls apart. Like, you get this poster, you got the trailers, like, I want to see Mr. Miyagi and Daniel LaRusso, well, not Mr. Miyagi, Mr. Han and Mr. LaRusso teaming up. They're going to teach this kid. And it's so late in the movie that you kind of don't give a crap about that anymore. You're kind of enjoying this little thing they got going on here. They got more of a kind of a playful chemistry like Johnny and Daniel did in the Cobra Kai show, where they want to both use their style to teach the kid. And like, no, my style's better. No, my style's better, but it's more playful. And it's like, well, why bring him in if you're not going to use them? And you're just going to say, no, use my move instead. It's kind of seems almost pointless. The whole thing about Daniel's speech about the two branch, one trees is so rushed through. Like, everything in the back half gets kind of rushed through. There's no cool training montage. Like, there's training, but it's not as cool as like the other Karate Kid training montages. It just kind of zips through all that, and they start setting up the secret move that's going to win the tournament, and that's fine. They blast through the tournament. It's like they only show basically the end of Lee's fights and the bad guys' fights. And it's like, all right, now we're in the tournament. We're in the finals. And they do this weird video game like editing thing where it's like they'll kick somebody and on the screen it's like this big, bold, flashy number, like 2 points, 1 point. And it just feels out of place because it didn't do that most of the rest of the movie. And then we're on the finals already. And then the final fight's pretty decent, but it looks, some of it looks pretty fake. Looks like there's some wire work thrown in there. There's like moves that doesn't look like someone should be able to do, like picking Lee up and then kicking him while he's in the air. Like, the guy's not Superman. He's just a regular dude, just a little bit bigger than him. So a lot of that looks kind of like, you couldn't do it. And then the end's fine. It's like what you expect. I said, it's just he wins the tournament, gets the respect of the other guy, the other dojo guy. The leader of the dojo just looks ticked off. Nothing comes out of that, and I guess that's about it. Everybody gets happily ever after. And then you go to what's basically a post-credit scene, but it's not, because they show the title card, and then but right before the credits, they show a bonus scene with LaRusso, and we get our Johnny Lawrence cameo, which is fun. It's always fun seeing, Johnny do something. And it was a cute little scene, which makes you wish you would have got more, Johnny in this movie, because, he has a little silliness to it. And I guess that's about it. I don't want to kind of back and forth between the plot and going on tangents. Just kind of want to talk about some of the stuff that's a little more spoilery here, because it's too hard to do that in like a regular review. I don't think there's anything else I want to say about it. So I guess that's about it. I said I just mentioned it again. I do have the non-spoiler versions review. I have other movie reviews. I got TV show reviews. I got my comic strip that I do. I got all those over at soundofbettermyhead.com. So if you want to check that out, that's awesome. And other than that, thanks for watching.